Today we're going to talk about how carnivore macros can actually make you sick. Welcome everyone to this humble life that I live, where I've been living in a camper. It's been 3 years. I was like, oh shite, it's 3 years now. But I'm building a house. And I'm trying to keep a puppy in 10 acres on wired fencing. It's a lot of work. But let's get right on into how these carnivore macros can actually damage you, damage your health. People who do carnivore don't realize it's just covert a ketogenic diet. I mean, that's all that it is. You're trying to drive ketosis. There is this massive myth going around that you can get enough energy from meat as liver glycogen and immediate blood sugar. I mean, this advice, do people actually work with people? Because all of the people that I coach eating too much protein have a plethora of problems. So the first thing is eating, let's say for breakfast, you're eating 4 eggs and 6 ounces of meat. What on God's green earth, why would you eat that much? All you would need upon waking up is possibly 3 eggs or 3 to 4 ounces of meat and a grip of fat. We're done. We don't have to eat 200 grams or 400 in weight, 400 grams or 6 ounces or 8 ounces of meat in one meal. The problem is a lot of you have hypochlorhydria and you don't have the ability to break down meats properly, and a lot of you guys have leaky gut. So I get this question, I have foamy urine, do you know what's going on? I'm like, you're trying to overstuff the assembly line and you have leaky gut. Your body's not able to use all that protein, so a portion of it is reconverted back into sugar. The other portion of it you see in the toilet. And this is where you find people having low testosterone, the testosterone tanks, the thyroid tanks. They're not using this protein as structure. They can't build muscle, even though they're eating a lot of protein. Should you be eating a lot of protein to build muscle? That is another myth. I'm actually going to do a video about that on its own. But it's not about the amount of protein, because your digestive system cannot handle all of that protein in one meal. Because of the hypochlorhydria, low stomach acid, because of low protease and pepsin, you don't have enough digestive equipment, gallbladder issues and lipase issues, to then eat all of this fatty meat, and you're not able to break things down. Your ketones are low, your blood sugar's too high, and then you start to notice that you're not getting enough energy, or you'll notice that, like I said, the foamy urine, or you'll go to the doctor and check that your iron is high or your B12 is too high, because a lot of gurus aren't telling people to watch out for malabsorption while eating all that protein. Okay, so people went through this whole fasting thing, and now people are going back to the whole eat like a king, and then like eat dinner like a pauper, eat breakfast like a king and then dinner like a pauper. The problem with that is that you guys have hypochlorhydria, again, that low stomach acid, and with leaky gut, people are dehydrated. So this is another compounding problem, is that when you're dehydrated and you have a low kidney function and you're eating all that protein, the protein waste products and the byproducts have to go through the kidneys, and then you have leaky gut. So you're not absorbing the B12 and the iron. Now you start to develop high B12 or high uric acid levels. Now this isn't everyone, but this is a lot of people who come to carnivore diet with leaky gut and histamine issues. This is a huge problem. But another thing is, like, you can't get into ketosis eating a lot of protein, and you're not going to get energy, like I said earlier, from protein. You can't store energy in the muscle from a bunch of meat. That's either got to be ketones from fat or carbs, not protein. So in the beginning, people feel amazing because they get rid of all of the inflammatory food. They're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. But over time now, just like a ketogenic diet, just the same trend, people are like, I don't know what happened. I felt so good at first, and now I feel like shite. And I'm like, because your body figured out what you're doing. And then you're getting bad advice to prime and eat a bunch of meat. And, well, if I eat fat, I'm going to get fat. And I'm like, do any of these people preaching this garbage understand that you have to get into ketosis and that fat does not incite insulin alone? Your insulin isn't storing fat because you're eating fat. Glucose incites insulin. The problem is your stress. The problem is a broken digestive system, or you're eating non-organic or non-grass-fed, dry-hung meats that are making you react and skyrocketing your blood sugar. So women should have protein a day between 50 and 75, and 75 is really pushing it, spread throughout the day. And then men should have between 60 and 95 grams of protein. People are like, I'm going to starve. I'm like, you have to up your fat, people. And then, of course, your gallbladder has to work. It's not just to do carnivore and stop eating carbs. Most of the consultations that I do, even though people watch my videos, people just simply are not eating enough fat. There's just this fear of fat. There's the fasting thing. And if you guys haven't noticed, it's kind of dying. The whole 1 meal a day and the fasting, people still do it, but they're coming at carnivore so hard that gurus will tell them, well, if you eat too much fat, you're not going to be able to lose weight. They're not talking about like your hormones. Like, are you estrogen dominant? Is your liver working? Do you have a low GFR? If your gallbladder is not functioning, you can't break down the fat. You're going to store that fat you can't break down. Are they telling you that? Is that why you're eating high protein? But no one's telling you as well that protein, if you start binging on protein, especially at night, you're going to start gaining weight because you're going to start storing the protein that was now converted into sugar, and now that protein's like a candy bar. It may not start that way, but it will end that way unless you are young, low body fat, not like some men are taking things. Y'all do not have the eye for all the exogenous pharmacological interventions that people take to look lean. It's ridiculous. I can see it. Y'all can't see it. Just make sure to keep your protein moderate to low and your fat super high. If your gallbladder is not working, you might have to go off of carnivore and go over and do low carb. And if low carb is making your blood sugar jacked up, you might have to do a fixed gallbladder strategy, which I've done a million videos. At the end of the day, the whole 80-20 thing, let's do 80-15-5, which is 80% fat, sometimes even higher, 15% protein, and 5% carbohydrates starting. And the gauge that you want to start this with is 200 grams of fat. Grams. Because you could do these percentages on 1,000 calories a day, and no. Start with 200 grams of fat as your baseline. And if your gallbladder doesn't like it, then you have to consider, like I mentioned before, going off of carnivore or doing any type of strategy where you're either doing TUDCA, ox bile, lemon water, lipase, hexane-free castor oil, and rubbing that on the gallbladder because it can get tight. I'm going to do a whole breakdown video about the gallbladder because there are so many things people don't consider, like the way you sit, the chronic dehydration, the symptoms of the gallbladder, weird things like heart palpitations, yellow stool versus the pale stool with the gallbladder. But you really should make your fat baseline 200 grams to 300 depending on how active you are. Your protein, I mentioned those protein parameters, and the carbs would come from avocados, which you don't count the carbohydrates because of the fat and fiber slows down the rate at which the carbs hit the bloodstream. But if you're going to have a little bit of cruciferous vegetables, even every other day, a golf ball size, that's enough for the stabilization of the gut microbiome, for that prebiotic fiber. And no, resistant starch is not a good idea, because a lot of you guys are having severe gut distress from resistant starch. All you need is things like asparagus or leek or spring onions, the green part, and I mean a wee bit, to stabilize that gut microbiome. Now, other cruciferous vegetables will help, and avocados will help, but the prebiotic plants would be asparagus, especially leek, or especially asparagus and then leek. Comment below. Is this you? Are you confused about the carnivore macros? Did you realize it's the same as a ketogenic diet and you have to keep your fat high and the protein moderate to low? With a ketogenic diet, you're just really riding the line of carnivore. So they're the same diet and they have the same goals, except for carnivore, people have problems with chronic dehydration and they're eating all that meat, like I mentioned, not enough fat because they're worried about gaining weight. And the system starts to fall apart over time. And for those who say that they do perfect, they're not being completely honest, because no one does perfect on these low-carb diets because your body's used to carbs. Just saying. And we live in a toxic soup of a world. And if you cut out your carbs completely, you have to deal with this potential for dehydration, mineral deficiencies. And then people run and take Element. What a gross, cheap product, waste of money. It's better to understand your existing health. And I'm out. Comment below. Now I gotta go feed my animals because they are right outside my window. Let's check them out. Let's see if they're there. Oh yes, we have animals. So Thunder is probably about 4 feet from me. He has a mask on because he had a squamous cell carcinoma, eye cancer in 3 spots, eyelid, which it is gone now, but now I'm protecting his face. What's up, doo-doo? And then the donkeys. And I don't know where the pony is. And I'm out.